George Clooney and Brad Pitt's new movie, Wolves, is on Apple TV Plus September 27th.
That's where I want you to be now.
So if you want to see George Clooney and Brad Pitt, go to Apple TV Plus.
You got to start the story there.
Or if you want to see Brad Pitt and George Clooney, go to Apple TV Plus.
I am enjoying the show.
And if you want to see their new movie, Wolves,
You can't do it, I'm going to help you out. I can do it, so do it.
definitely go to Apple TV Plus.
Admit it, it's cool. Okay, fine, it was very cool.
Wolves, streaming September 27th on Apple TV Plus. Rated R.
Hey, it's Kaylee Cuoco for Priceline. Ready to go to your happy place for a happy price? Well, why didn't you say so? Just download the Priceline app right now and save up to 60% on hotels. So whether it's Cousin Kevin's Kazoo Concert in Kansas City, go Kevin, or Becky's Bachelorette Bash in Bermuda, you never have to miss a trip ever again. So download the Priceline app today. Your savings are waiting.
Go to your happy place for a happy price. Go to your happy price, Priceline.
Is it time to panic for the San Francisco 49ers? I know. It's only week number 4 of the NFL season. The San Francisco 49ers are only 1-2. It's so early on in the 2024 campaign, but it feels like the San Francisco 49ers season thus far has kind of been teetering on disaster. Obviously, when you're 1-2 and you're tied for second place and kind of last place, depending on how you want to look at it, in the NFC West, you're coming off of one of the worst losses, if not the worst loss, under or in the Kyle Shanahan era. A lot is to be said of, what else could go wrong. But again, it's still young. There's plenty of time for San Francisco to make up ground. You win against the Patriots. You win against the Cardinals. You're above 500. You're 3-2. Then you go into a Week 6 matchup, Thursday Night Football against the Seattle Seahawks. You win that game. You maybe give Seattle their first loss of the year. You get your second win in the NFC West division, and no one looks back saying, "Oh, wow, what a terrible start." You go, "Wow, we're 4-2. Everything's okay." And it feels like nothing else or nothing really has kind of cratered for your season. But as of right now, though, that is all what could potentially happen. San Francisco has also played down to 2 of their opponents. They certainly should have beat the Los Angeles Rams. They certainly could have beaten the Minnesota Vikings and could be 3-0 as of right now. We could be talking about something entirely different. We could be discussing how great the win against the Rams were. We could be talking about how San Francisco overcame a brutal start against the Vikings and clawed their way back. Whereas we're talking about, is it time to panic for the San Francisco 49ers? The season isn't lost by any means, but it very much feels like we are near a tipping point of the season, depending on what happens against the aforementioned next 2 opponents, the Patriots and the Cardinals. The Patriots have beaten the Bengals this year. They've fought harder than expected. The Cardinals almost beat the Bills. They annihilated the Rams. And yes, they lost last week, but all that is to say, the Cardinals are a much better team than many initially thought. While your season doesn't hinge on these next 2 games, you certainly cannot fall to 1-4, and you definitely don't want to be 2-3 heading into a pivotal Thursday night game against the Seattle Seahawks. Talking to many fans, kind of gauging the room of Niner fans, if you will, many of you believe that this year feels like 2020. Now, obviously, there was so many more factors that took place in 2020. There were fires in the first few weeks of the season. It almost altered the plans for the game against the Cardinals, in which San Francisco did lose that game. Tevin Coleman couldn't even play because the fires and even COVID could have accelerated the sickle cell syndrome that he has. He didn't play in that game. George Kittle got hurt in that game. and obviously COVID, no fans in the stands, entirely new off seasons, and you were coming off of a Super Bowl loss against the Chiefs. Again, you don't have COVID this year. There's no fires this year, but San Francisco is coming off a loss in the Super Bowl against the Kansas City Chiefs. This offseason has been anything but easy for San Francisco. You have holdouts and hold-ins of Trent Williams and Brandon Ayuk and distractions caused by that. You've had Ayuk holding out all the way up until roughly a week before your first game against the Jets and Monday Night Football as the regular season opener. Trent Williams returns shortly before that game, and yes, although you win that game even before those events occurred, Ricky Pearsall gets shot in the chest in San Francisco, trying to find luggage for his eventual travel days as an NFL receiver in his first rookie season. You have players like John Feliciano and Elijah Mitchell and Ambry Thomas going down and being put on IR during training camp, during preseason games. You're losing some, albeit not key pieces, some rotational players you expected to have some sort of an impact in 2024. But now we're in the year, we're 3 weeks deep, heading into week 4, and the injuries are kind of piling up here on San Francisco. And again, it gives people the vibes of this is going to be 2020. They're 1-2. They are just decimated by injuries at key positions, or at least key players being hurt, and they can't seem to find ways to win. You have a new defensive coordinator who is struggling currently. Things are not well in San Francisco, but to some more hopeful fans, they believe it is 2021. I would certainly lean towards being more hopeful that you have an upgraded quarterback in Brock Purdy. Jordan Mason has done by far more than enough job to help you win games. Juwan Jennings has been incredible this year, albeit he hasn't played all the games. George Kittle has been an impact player in one of them. Although he lost that game, he was an impactful player. There are some bright spots in a pretty poor season thus far, pretty poor start for San Francisco. So I lean towards 2021 of, San Francisco's been here before. They can claw their way out of this. And hopefully, even if it means a wild card spot, that they're healthy come January, where they can make a run deep in the playoffs. This team is, at least on paper, arguably one of the best rosters they've ever had with Kyle Shanahan at the helm. The defense personnel-wise, on paper again, should be a little better, albeit the scheme has certainly struggled. But then you go back to those injuries, and again, it makes people get those 2020 flashbacks when they lost Jimmy G and Raheem Mostert, and they lost Nick Bosa and Solomon Thomas and Deebo Samuel, all in the span of a month. And you're like, wow, how do you survive? San Francisco in that same season, though, was around the playoff hunt for the majority of the year, despite how bad it was. But the injuries, I already said, Elijah Mitchell, Kalia Davis, Ambry Thomas, John Feliciano, Ricky Pearsall, Christian McCaffrey, the reigning offensive player of the year, who apparently is headed to Germany to get further treatment because they have more of the way they can heal tendonitis in the Achilles and an ankle injury. They have more means, or they have the ability to quickly heal those injuries compared to what the U.S. can do, but he's going to Germany of all places. Some people were joking, saying he'll be back in week 9, which may be offensive. I didn't make the joke, but certainly is on the Twitter sphere currently. Deebo Samuel is going to miss some time, having already missed one game against the Los Angeles Rams. George Kittle, albeit, should be back this week against the Patriots and should practice this week. He missed a game against the Rams last week. Now you have the newest injury of the roster on the roster, that being Javon Hargrave, who he ain't just going to miss 1 week or 2 weeks. Javon Hargrave, who walking into this year was supposed to have this bounce back season. His body was finally correct. He lost some weight. He was in a better position to succeed on the field, having done the work off the field. he was supposed to be. He was going to be tasked with being next to Nick Bosa, the number 2 pass rusher on the interior on this team. He's going to be out for almost the entire year, with the only hope of him returning would be for a later playoff run late in January, maybe if you're lucky and you're playing in the Super Bowl in February. But regular season-wise, he's going to be out for the entire year. It's a massive loss for a defense that has kind of already struggled. You've given up 27 points to the Rams, over 20 points to the Vikings, and that Week 1 performance seems like a kind of distant past of that may have been the fluke of the year thus far, because the last 2 weeks it's been a struggle for the defense to limit big plays, stop the opposition on third down. Then you add in the fact of you don't have Javon Hargrave, which, yeah, you have Fred Warner, you have Nick Bosa, but let's take Nick Bosa, for example. Now that you don't have Hargrave out there, the opposing offenses are just going to double team Nick Bosa the majority of plays, because Leonard Floyd and Yetur Gross-Matos and Malik Collins and Jordan Elliott and Kevin Givens, albeit there have been some good performances in those players kind of scattered through the first 3 weeks, there has not been this consistent and continual, through line of they're performing well this year. Well, if that's going to continue, this inconsistency, this, one play you're good, the next 4 plays you don't know what you're going to get, and you're not going to get this consistent pressure, these consistent sack numbers, the ability to get to the quarterback, play in, play out, teams like the Patriots, the Cardinals, the Seahawks, the Chiefs, the Cowboys, and even teams that you think you should take care of and handle with kind of kid gloves or with ease, rather, like the Patriots, you double team Nick Bosa, you're putting so much more pressure on 3 other guys that really haven't been able to get the job done with Hargrave in the fray, with Nick Bosa not being double teamed. That's a big ask. Like, you're asking a lot from players that you're paying a pretty penny to, Leonard Floyd being one of them, Malik Collins being the other one. You got to step up. Those guys got to do their job. And while I do believe that when everything kind of rounds and kind of comes into form, they'll bounce back. This team is kind of playing its worst football now. I expect them to be playing better football in the near future. Maybe this Sunday against the Patriots back at home at Levi Stadium. That has yet to be seen. That's a big ask and a hope of players that you're like, look, I hope you'll be this way. The projection is you'll play better, but the reality is we have yet to see that at a more consistent basis. And then you kind of zoom out, not from a player-specific angle, but a defensive-wide angle. It's been pretty piss poor, to be honest with you. Points allowed per game is sitting at 23. That ranks 21st in football. Defensive efficiency, 40.31. That ranks 25th in football. If you want to go into a more, numbers and analytics approach, the EPA of the defense this year is 11.89. That's 24th in football. That's not good. As a whole, the defense is allowing more points this year. And even if the offense scores 24 points, the defense is almost giving or forcing the offense to play a perfect game. And without Deebo Samuel, without Christian McCaffrey, and without George Kittle against the Rams, despite scoring 24 points, you cannot expect the offense to be perfect every single drive. It's hard to do. Not everybody's going to be Jaden Daniels against the Bengals on Monday Night Football. It's going to be hard to do so. Now, yes, the Niners should be able to score more than 23 points per game, but that leaves little room for error. Then you add in, again, no Deebo, no McCaffrey, no Kittle. That's a hard job, hard task to do. The running game has also been an Achilles heel for San Francisco. Yes, going back to last year, but even this year it's carried over, making that Week 1 game against the Jets kind of a null and void. That's not who your defense is. Against the Vikings and against the Rams, 4.5 yards a rush. That ranks 21st in football. Yards per play, pass or rush, 6.1, 30th in football. The Niners defense, whether it's on the ground or with the pass included, are giving up over 6 yards a play and almost 4.5 yards on the ground. You are just giving opponents near first downs every single drive. Yes, there are some drives where, like against the Rams, the first two, you stop them and you give your offense a chance to put up, 14 unanswered points and almost put that game away, but then you get to a much bigger issue with the defense. Is third down conversion rate. Now, against the Jets, it was pretty good. It wasn't great, but it was acceptable, if you will, for the first game of the year. Against the Vikings and against the Rams, it was not great. San Francisco's defense that in previous years, and even at times last year, was so good at getting off the field on third down, of stopping even great offenses in their tracks. You even go back to that Super Bowl game against the Kansas City Chiefs where they were holding Travis Kelce to 1 catch for 1 yard in the first half, where the Chiefs offense needed a spark from special teams blunders by San Francisco and offensive inconsistencies of their own. The Niners have had a knack for almost taking the opposing offenses out of the game. And we're talking with great quarterbacks and great weapons. San Francisco has been known to get sacks, get turnovers, get takeaways, and get off the field, giving their high-powered offense more chances to score. That's not been the case this year. It feels like that on both sides of the football, they're fighting to stay on the field on third downs, having to go for more fourth downs this year early, and they're definitely on a higher trajectory to have the most fourth down attempts and conversions under Kyle Shanahan so far. And on defense, they have the 30th worst. They rank 30th in third down conversion rate, 52.9. Basically, they are allowing the opponents to average a 53% conversion rate on third downs this year. Good teams are not that bad. Great teams are much better. This is bad defensive play. And again, going back to the run, they have a 51.6% success against the run. That ranks 28th in football. When have we ever known a Niner defense since 2019 to be ranked in the 20th? And not just, they're 20th, they're 19th. We're talking 25, 24, 30th, and 28th. That's not who we've come to know the Niners to be. Now, look, every team is going to have an off year. We need to be cognizant of Nick Sorensen is headed into his 4th game calling plays, but there is a lot of proof, if you are a fan, that's like, hit the panic button. Code red, something's going wrong. They picked the wrong guy. They hired the wrong defensive coordinator. The personnel's off. Third down conversion rates are just out of this world of how terrible they are. The Devondre Campbell can't cover anybody. D. Winters re-aggravated the ankle injury. Who's this team's second and third linebacker? Why is Fred Warner blitzing on third downs when he is by far the greatest coverage linebacker in the game today and having a phenomenal season? The decisions don't make sense, and the personnel, Isaac Yiadom, some secondary issues like George Odom against Jefferson against the Vikings, 97-yard touchdown catch. Like, there are big, massive holes you point to and say, I'm not sure these things can just be cleaned up by Nick Sorensen growing as a defensive coordinator. Now, maybe that can happen, but I would not fault some fans in saying, like, this isn't just, it's a lull. This is a massive, catastrophic concern of if you can't stop the opposing offense, and for the Rams, no Puka Nacua, no Cooper Kupp, no 3 offensive linemen not playing, no Tyler Higbee, an inexcusable performance to give up 27 points and big play after big play, penalties, 111 yards. It's undisciplined, it's nasty, it's inconsistent, it's dirty. It's not the San Francisco 49ers we've come to know. That makes fans say this could be a lost year. On the last podcast I did, It was an hour and 40 minutes detailing everything that went wrong with the game against the Rams. There are people in the comments saying it's a lost year, cut it up, retool, rebuild, and maybe those are more aggressive statements to make, and I wouldn't go that far. They're 1-2. They win against the Patriots. They're 2-2, and okay, you kind of swerved things back in the right direction, but there is a credence to fans believing that this year is going to be a bad one. Then you get to special teams, and this is where I think a lot of people, even if you are on the side of they can save the season, they're 1-2, it's not that bad just yet, or you're saying, game over, put this sucker away, lock, stock, and barrel, this is a nightmare, we can all agree the special teams needs a change. The special teams has, while not directly cost them 2 games, it certainly has played a massive factor in the difference in the last 2 games. Obviously, against the Vikings, a blocked punt. It leads to a score by Minnesota. Against the Rams, it's knowing there's a fake punt coming, but not taking the necessary steps to stop it. There's a bad punt by Wisnowski. There's a blown blocked punt coverage. And next thing I know, you're 1-2, and the special teams finds itself once again for what seems like the 8th straight year ranked near the bottom of the league in DVOA as a unit. It's been far too common for this team to have a really good offense and a really good defense and a really bad special teams unit led by Brian Schneider. I understand that, it isn't always a coach. The offense, a play call can be great. The quarterback can miss a throw. The receiver can drop a pass. That certainly hurt San Francisco against the Rams. The defense can have a great play call. You can dial up the blitz. Your guys can get home, but they not secure the sack. That's not a coaching issue. That is a player execution issue. Those have happened certainly on special teams, but a lot of the things are coaching issues on special teams. You have players on punt coverages that are supposed to be at the line of scrimmage, not allowing free rushers to the quarterback or to the punter, leaving early, trying to get downfield, leaving their blocks, leaving their assignments, then allowing punts to get blocked or missing tackles downfield, the angles they take. A lot of that has to do with coaching, which has led to this team having the 30th ranked special teams unit. Do some quick math. That is the 3rd worst special teams unit in the entire league. For a team that has paid for George Odom, has gone out and acquired, Oren Burks in the last couple of years, McLeod as a returner, drafted Jacob Cowling and Isaac Arendo, and brought in, Malik Mustafa and guys that you would say these should be impact players on special teams. They're not. They haven't been thus far, albeit things can change, but the changes seem to be needed at the coaching level, not at a player level, at least just yet. I cannot tell you how much Demetrius Flanagan-Falls has cost this team early on special teams. Not been great. A lot of things that point to this is not going to be the year we all expected San Francisco to have. And for a team that has had, the aspirations of, or the label of Super Bowl or bust next to their name for the past few years, thus far, you have to give fans something to believe in, and a quarterback playing right out of their mind can only do so much, can only carry you so far, whereas Brock Purdy played a phenomenal game against the Rams, and you still lost because 2 of the units that weren't the offense can't hold up their end of the bargain. You're going to lose a lot of games by doing so, and San Francisco's already lost 2 games because of that. But there is kind of a slimmer of hope, because right now it's been negativity, injuries, what else can possibly go wrong for this team? And while negativity sells, there are certain content creators that will definitely preach that to you and utilize that. I'm not someone that wants to do that. yes, there's a lot of things to bicker about, be negative about, and point to and say, this has to change. I will never not do that. Defense must get better. The offense at times has to get better. Special teams must get better. Kyle Shanahan has to get better. Nick Sorensen must be better. Brandon Ayuk and Brock Purdy have to reconnect. There are so many distractions and little things going wrong that it has led to bigger problems down the road. Then you look at Kyle Shanahan's record by month as a Niner head coach. Now, this may give some of you the reasoning or the desire to have optimism, to go, well, things are going to get better. It may also give some of you this vindication of, see, it's only going to get worse. This is not going to go how Niner fans thought it would. In the months of September, as a Niner head coach, Shanahan's record is 13-12, barely above 500. He's obviously lost 2 games already this year during September. That could mean maybe this Sunday, if they lose, he is right back to 500 and 13-3 all time in the month of September. But if they win, they're 2-2 this year and 14-12 all time. But still, a 500 record in the first month of the season or around there, that is the first indication of, okay, it's a slower start for San Francisco. But October seems to be, or is likely gonna be, the make or break month for San Francisco this season. We've already talked about everything that's gone wrong that must get better. In the month of October, Kyle Shanahan's record is 13-19 all time. For as slow as a start as San Francisco has had this year, they have not been unfamiliar with a slow start. 2021, 3-5, 2022, 4-4, and 2023, obviously 5-0. There have been times, even after a slow start, they picked themselves up. But this year, the slow start they've had, there have been differences. In 2022, it was Trey Lance at quarterback, and then Jimmy Garoppolo at quarterback, and that eventually led to a much better team down the road once Jimmy Garoppolo got healthy. Then he got hurt, and Brock Purdy came in and took them to new heights, obviously. But in 2021, it was some injuries. It was what's going on. It was, okay, this is not good, and a 2-quarterback system trying to be kind of utilized and not working, and Kyle Shanahan saying to himself that, I'm not in rhythm. There's a load of secondary injuries to add on to that to kind of point to and say, well, that's why they're losing games. This year, injuries, yes, for sure, but I would say less of a direct reason to point to and say that's why they've lost these games outside of a coaching issue, an execution issue. There is no quarterback issues this year. There's no quarterback can't battle as a distraction. There is no, I guess you can say, rhythm-less offense that Kyle Shanahan's running. It's just we're not playing well for a variety of reasons, not one exact issue to say that's why they're losing football games. San Francisco this year plays the Seattle Seahawks in prime time, the Dallas Cowboys, the Chiefs. 3 tough opponents in the month of October. Now, yes, you can beat the Cowboys. Yes, you can beat Seattle. And you point to and I'll say, well, look, they beat the Patriots, they beat the Cardinals, and they won 2 out of 3 or 2 out of 4 in October. That's not that bad. They're in a survivable position. But let me ask you this. Has anything this team done thus far given you the hope that they beat the Patriots? They beat the Cardinals that are playing pretty good football and are healthy and are really explosive on the offensive side of things, albeit pretty bad defense. Have they given you hope they can beat the Seahawks, who I'll go on a limb and say their 3-0 record kind of really isn't who they actually are. Bad quarterback play, Bo Nix and, Skylar Thompson don't give me the idea and thought that Seattle's a real contender, but they're 3-0 for a reason. Geno's playing pretty well, but again, has San Francisco, after losing to the Vikings and the Rams, given you hope and the belief that they'll walk in and beat Seattle by 10, they'll beat the Patriots by 20, they'll beat the Cardinals handily? I don't know. That is yet to be seen, and I hope soon, in the next 2 weeks, we look back and say, whew, those worries can go by the wayside. But as of now, week 3 heading into week 4, I'm just not entirely bought into this Niners team being able to just walk in and stomp teams, especially knowing you're not going to have Hargrave and Deebo Samuel and Christian McCaffrey, your offensive identity, for at least the next 2 or 3 weeks. Like, a lot is working against San Francisco, especially from a mentality standpoint, at least for me. Now, there is still hope. The bandwagon has not been jumped off of just yet. We are still faithful till the end by far, but is it time to panic for San Francisco? Now, I talked about that Kyle Shanahan's record by month can give fans hope, and I want to end the podcast with that hope of, in November, all time, he's 14-9. In December, he's 21-11, and in January, in the regular season, he's 4-2, and all time, Kyle Shanahan is 65-53. They've won a lot of games in the home stretch of the season when things are tough, and hopefully this year, if they can get healthy, when they can inevitably get Christian McCaffrey back and Deebo Samuel back and George Kittle back and maybe Kalia Davis, despite there still being some massive holes on this defense, linebacker 2, linebacker 3 currently, cornerback number 3, and some changes definitely have to be made. There is reason for optimism, but the further concern is that if they don't stop the downward spiral now, we might be in a code red, hit the panic button. Something massive has to change for this team to survive the 2024 season and have any hope of not just going to the Super Bowl, but any hope of going to the playoffs. Now, yes, they're 1-2. Yes, things can change drastically. The Bengals are 0-3. The Ravens have won 1 game. The Cowboys have the exact same record as San Francisco. The Falcons have won a couple games this year and should have beat Kansas City. A lot can change really fast in the blink of an eye. And for San Francisco, you're almost hoping there is another gear in there because a flip or a switch must flip in the next 2 weeks to salvage the season before things get really tough. Seattle, the Chiefs, the Cowboys, the Buccaneers after a bye week, the Packers, the Bills on the road, maybe in the snow in December, late in the year. And then you have to play the Rams again, likely more healthy than they were in week 3. The Cardinals better. The Bears, who at some point in time will likely find something that clicks for Caleb Williams. Your year's not going to get any easier. You were said to have an easy schedule to begin the season, and so far, the challenge has not been met. Things have to change. But I ask you, is it time to panic for the San Francisco 49ers? Are you panicking? Are you at code red, brother? We have skipped yellow. We have skipped orange. This year is on the verge of collapse in a downward spiral. I'm not there just yet, but a loss against the Patriots changes a ton. I want you to stay tuned in the next few days. We are going to preview that game. Niners and Patriots, they got to get a win. It's a must-win game in week 4 of the NFL season. Did you ever think we'd be saying that about this team? I know I did not, but that's how poorly the season has gone for San Francisco, and fingers crossed they change this Sunday, and I'm going to kind of spoil this for you. I think because they have to, they're going to get the job done against the Patriots, but what do you think? Where is your panic meter at? Are you yellow? Are you code orange? Are you code red? Or are you freaking DEFCON, whatever the worst one possibly is? Tell me down below in the comments, what do you want to see change? Are you panicking? Where do you sit on the panic meter? If you could, like, share, and subscribe on the YouTube channel and the podcasting platforms. If you also could follow us on social media at 49ers_access is the X or the Twitter. 49ers.access is the Instagram. And if you want to watch your 49ers play against the Patriots this Sunday, maybe it's against the Chiefs later on this year. Heck, maybe you want to go to Seattle, Lumen Field on a Thursday night in the next 3 weeks and watch this team hopefully spank the you-know-what out of Geno Smith and the Seattle Seahawks. Use our promo code 49ersaccess right here on the screen and down below in the description. Go to SeatGeek.com, find your ticket you like, find the spot you want to sit. When you go to checkout, in the promo code section, put in 49ers Access, 49 ERS ACCESS at SeatGeek.com to save yourself $20 off your first purchase. And as we progress into week number 4 of the NFL season, starting tomorrow, then obviously ending on Monday night with San Francisco playing on Sunday against the Patriots. If you want to find the latest news, articles, podcasts, YouTube videos just like this, go to sportspider.com. It is your one-stop shop for everything 49er related. They categorize, again, news, podcasts, YouTube videos in the same place just for you about your favorite team. If you're a Patriots fan, if you're a Steelers fan, if you're a Niner fan, go to sportspider.com for the one-stop shop, the one place you have to go for, again, the latest news on your favorite team. And, as you know, fantasy football season has begun. We're going into week number 4. Currently, I'm 2-1 in many of my leagues, but the one league I have to pay attention the most to is my Locker Fantasy app league. It is the simple and easiest way to earn some money while also watching football. It is a year-long league with a $15 buy-in, but you can earn money almost every single week. You earn points, that equals money, and by the end of the season, when you have the most points, the jackpot currently is at $450. If we can get 30 people in that league, and every person after 30, it escalates over and over and over again to a point of we could be looking at $500+, $600+, but you gotta sign up. Click that link down below and download the Locker Fantasy Football app, and let's have some fun. All the details down below. The league name is 49ers Access. Let's have some fun playing some fantasy football this season, and let's not just have some fun. Let's also earn some big moolah, some money, some green, if you will. You want to have a money tree in your backyard? You gotta play the Locker Fantasy Football app with myself and many others. But again, where do you stand on this Niners season? Are you DEFCON 1? You DEFCON 5? Where do you sit on the panic meter? You yellow? You orange? You red? You all the way spiraling in circles saying, I don't know where I stand. All I know is something's got to change. Tell me down below where you sit on the San Francisco 49ers panic meter. And as always, my name is Sterling Bennett, telling you to like, share, subscribe, leave that review, and until next time, stay faithful.